Hey guys, welcome back to Dadlicious Eats. Today I'm making lemon meringue pie. It's one of the family's favorite dishes. It's Moorish, it's addictive. Once you've made it once, you're going to regret it because you're not going to want to eat anything else for your dessert. It's not healthy, but let me show you how to make it. Let's get this kicked off with the list of ingredients. So first up, short crust pastry. I'm just going to use the pre-bought stuff. It's really good. You can make your own if you want, and no doubt I'll put up a video with a recipe for that, but for the sake of time, for the sake of ease, for the sake of cost, this is £1.40. It just makes sense to use pre-bought pastry sometimes. For the lemon filling, we're going to be using 250 grams of caster sugar. You can use plain white caster sugar if you want, or golden caster sugar. I'm going to use 4 lemons, so both the zest and the juice of those. We've got 5 eggs here. For the filling, I'm going to be using 5 egg yolks. The egg whites should be used for the meringue. And I've got 65 grams of corn flour, so that is going to really thicken up that lemon filling. For the meringue itself, I'm going to be using a couple of teaspoons, of corn flour. I'm going to be using 4 of the egg whites, and I'm going to be using 225 grams of sugar. Let's get started with the base. So one of the great things of pre-bought short crust pastry when you buy it in a roll is that it's probably 80%, 90% of your work is already done. So you've got pretty good pastry and it has been already rolled to a reasonably thin level, but you don't want it this thick, else it's not going to properly cook. In fact, speaking of which, what we're going to be doing is blind baking the pastry first. So blind baking essentially means you're pre-cooking some of the pastry. So I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. Let's just roll this out a little bit more first. General rule with pastry is try and keep it as cool as you can. So don't touch it unless you need to be. Thank you for watching the channel. Thank you for watching this video. If you're not a subscriber, why not go ahead and click that button now. I've got tons of recipes. I've got a little bit more time on my hands now. So hopefully I will be able to post a bunch more recipes for you. So all we're doing here is we're just going to roll it out a little bit. To make sure it's going to fit, just pop on our pastry tin this side. So I've got a pastry tin that's about 1 inch thick. If you've got a smaller one that's deeper, that's completely fine as well. This just needs a little bit more rolling out. Let's hope it doesn't stick to the surface. To make sure it doesn't, let's just flip it over. And then use the flour just to make sure it doesn't. Now you don't need this to be exact, but that looks pretty perfect. So let's take our tin. I'm going to pop in our pastry. Try and use a tin with where the bottom comes away. It just makes it a lot easier to take out later. And all we're going to do is we're going to pop this in. So ease it into the corners. Just work your way around with your fingers. And that's looking pretty good there. I'm just going to take some scissors just to cut off some of the excess. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to cut off and make it absolutely perfect on the top here, because what will happen is the pastry is going to start to shrink. And if it shrinks and you've already cut it, let's say to the right height here, or here, it's probably easier on the camera, it's going to shrink down to there, so you've got less room for the filling. So here we go. That's looking pretty good, but we'll trim this up once it's been blind baked. Take a fork, and to make sure we don't get air holes as we're baking this, We just prod it a bunch of times there. So by blind baking, what we're basically doing, like I said at the start, is we're cooking this crust, and that means you're not going to get a really soggy crust once you've put the filling in. So in order to do that, I'm just going to use the baking parchment that the short crust came in, and I'm going to use, if I can get the lid off, still trying to get the lid off, nearly there, and we're there. So these are ceramic baking beads. These are specifically used for blind baking. If you don't have these, use something like lentils, rice, dried beans. You basically, all you really want is something that's going to spread out, and it's going to stop the pastry from rising. The good thing with ceramic beads is they get hot, and that means it kind of cooks from the top as well. The bad thing about that is they do take a while to cool down, so be careful of that. So in the oven, this will go, I've got it at about 160 degrees centigrade, 15 minutes with the beans in. I'm then going to take it out, and I'm going to cook it for another 5 minutes, a total of 20 minutes, and we'll have a perfectly cooked crust at that point. See you in a minute. While that's cooking, let's get started on the lemon filling. So first up, take a grater, take your lemons, and you're just going to zest these lemons, and this is where your kitchen is going to start smelling amazing. So that's our zest in there. We're just going to start squeezing in the lemons. The lemon juice, if you try and squeeze it between your fingers, you can catch most of, not always all of it, the seeds. This is where it's good when you go and buy your lemons. Try not to buy ones that are particularly hard and not quite as ripe. So into this goes our corn flour. I'm going to basically whisk this into a smooth paste. And corn flour is in here as the thickening agent, and you'll notice as you start to whisk this and get it nice and smooth, nice and consistent, it does start to get a little bit thicker, and especially when it starts cooking, it's going to thicken that sauce right up. But that's looking good enough at the moment. Great. Next up are the eggs. Split the yolks away from the whites, so keep back the whites and pop the yolks into the bowl. Mix in the sugar, so this was 250 grams of sugar. Doesn't have to be perfect, pretty much this is ready to go. We've bought 450 milliliters of water, pretty much to the boil. And we're going to put our corn flour and lemon slurry into this. Make sure we get as much of the corn flour out as we can. I'm just going to cook this off for a little bit. And you can see already that this is going nice and thick. Don't need this on for long, probably about a minute. It's perfectly fine. You can see already you've got this beautiful consistency. I'm going to turn off the stove. Nice and quiet now. In goes our sugar and egg mix. And the reason we turn off the heat is that we don't want to keep cooking it. because we've got eggs, and you know, what do eggs do when you cook them? They're likely to scramble. Let's just whisk this in. Just going to cook this through. You can see it's going nice and yellow now. The better the eggs you use, the more yellow it's going to be. That looks perfect. So we're going to leave that, set that aside, and we're going to wait for the pastry case to finish. Pastry has been cooking for 15 minutes now. You can start to see the edges are going a little bit golden. I'm going to take out our baking beads. Remember, I said these would be very, very hot, so just be careful. I'm going to pour them into here and set them aside. Just leave them to cool down naturally. For now, what we've done is we've prevented the case from lifting up with air bubbles, but this is still soft. So another 5 minutes, sorry, this will go into the oven. We've got the pastry, we've got the lemon filling. The final element is the meringue to go on top. So take your egg whites, and I very much recommend using an electric whisk. You can do this by hand by all means, but it's a lot more work. And we're going to whisk these off until we start to form soft peaks on the meringue. This is looking pretty good. You should see a couple of soft peaks, or one soft peak there. That's perfect. We're then going to take our sugar and our corn flour. So let's just pop, we wanted 2 teaspoons of corn flour in there. And we're going to slowly whisk this in. Don't pour it all in at once, a little bit at a time. So now we've got a nice luxurious filling. You can see it's nice and shiny. Out of the oven comes pastry. Turn the oven down another 10 degrees. So you want this at about 150 now. And you can see we've got this beautifully, I don't know if you can hear, nice crisp base. It's not that presentable at the moment. This is where we're going to take a knife, so be very careful because it's hot. Look, here you can see we've got a part where the pastry wasn't quite as high up, and so it has shrunk a little bit. But all you need to do, in fact, I'm going to take a cloth here and just run a knife along the top. And it very quickly gives you a perfectly formed top of the pastry. Either clear away or don't bother at the moment the remaining bits. I just let them just cook off. I'm only cooking it for another 15 minutes. Then into our case goes our lemon curd filling. I've had a quick taste of this and it is tasting amazing so far. That goes in nicely. We've still got room on the top for our meringue. So let's just pour that on using a spatula to get it all out. This is where it may start to leak over the top a little bit, but you can manipulate it a little bit as you go along, as you go round. That's looking absolutely perfect. Just going to pop this into the oven 15 minutes at 150 degrees until until the meringue is nice and golden on top. This has been out of the oven about 20 minutes or so. Let's cut ourselves a nice slice. Got the crispiness of the outer layer of the meringue. Look at that, pillowy soft in the middle. And let's try and pull this out in one piece. There we go, look at that, perfect. The lemon is nice and set, we've got the meringue nice and soft there, crunchy on the top, perfectly firm base. So let's dig into this, get a bit of everything. It's like summer in a spoon. You cut through the meringue, beautifully cooked meringue, and then we've got our lemon filling, and then finally we've got a nice crisp pastry base. You've got to be careful of how much I eat of this. Like we saw, it's got half a kilo of sugar in, so definitely not the healthiest thing to have. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it useful, it would be super cool if you could like the video, share it, drop a comment if you've got any questions about it, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll be back soon with more recipes. Cheers, guys.